Please excuse the hair, but here is part one of Who the Fuck Did I Marry? So I met my ex-husband around March 4th of 2020. We met on Facebook dating site, and we also matched on Hinge. I did not realize that he was on both under two different names. So one was his actual name, and the other one was a variation, like a nickname that he called himself. Different pictures. So it was a running joke between us. Oh, you ain't even recognize that you had matched with me on Hinge. No, I didn't. And also that should have been a red flag. By the way, you will notice in this story, I called it the United Nations of red flags. It is so many red flags that, I mean, you would have thought I was colorblind because I ignored all of them. So anyway, back to the story. We met around March 4th. We exchanged phone numbers. He called me and we talked on the phone for the first time. In the first phone call, he told me that he had just moved to Georgia from California, from San Diego. His job had transferred him because he was being transferred in as the new regional manager for a major condiment company that is based here in Georgia. I'm not going to say the name. And so we also talked about his childhood. He told me he grew up in Philly. He's from Philly. Both of his parents were deceased. This is the first phone call. Both of his parents were deceased. His father was a Philadelphia police officer. His mom was a teacher. He also told me he briefly lived in Augusta with his family. He had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. He also had 2 half-brothers on his dad's side. First phone call. So I'm just giving you guys the backstory. This was the first phone call we had. So we talked about family. We talked about friends. We talked about our jobs. At the time, I was working at Georgia State Patrol. And he knew this, and he just thought that was like, wow, you know, so you work with troopers all day. Yes, I did. Also in that phone call, he explained to me that he used to play football. He explained that he used to play arena football. I know nothing about arena football. I know about NFL. I know about college. Go Dogs. But I don't know anything about arena football. So he explained to me that he used to play arena football. He used to work at Apple in the off season of arena football. And I remember thinking on that phone call, oh, okay, you know, like, good for you. I don't know anything about arena football. And I believe I did tell him that. I don't know anything about arena football. That'll come into play later on. So he told me, you know, I just moved here. My job is paying for my housing and they're helping me to look for a house. He was like, right now I'm in Gwinnett County, but I'm trying to look for a house ideally in Atlanta, like Brookhaven, Sandy Springs. He was like, I really would like to move out there. And so I thought, you know, that's great. You know, you're looking to get a house. You just moved here. He was like, I don't really know too many people here because I spend all my time at work and, you know, this job is really demanding. So that was our first phone call. We talked more. He talked a lot, which took me by surprise because I'm not really used to men talking more than me. He eventually asked me out on a date. Our first date was set for Saturday, March 7th, 2020. He asked me what was my favorite restaurant. I said Cheesecake Factory. And so we agreed to go out at the Cheesecake Factory in a location that was in between. I lived in Clayton County at the time. He lived in Gwinnett County. I realized that if you don't know anything about Metro Atlanta, that makes no sense. But basically, we lived about 45 minutes apart. So we agreed to meet at the Cheesecake Factory over at Perimeter Mall, which is in an area, Sandy Springs, Dunwoody area. I was excited. Like, I called my friends and was like, I got a date, you know, blah, blah, blah. We'll see how it goes. First conversation was good. Hopefully he looks like his pictures, because, you know, that's always an issue with online dating. Hopefully he looks like his pictures. So on my way to our date, I took 285, and literally right before I got to Boulder Crest, the exit for Boulder Crest, I heard a boom, and I lost control of my car. Thank God that well, not thank God, but I knew what to do. So I did not crash, but my tire blew out. So I called him and I said, hey, I'm so sorry, but my tire just blew on 285. I'm slowly making my way off the exit. I believe I pulled into a Chevron gas station. And I said, you know, I got to get this fixed. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm a damsel in distress kind of thing. He kind of paused. He got quiet, and he was like, you know, tell me exactly where you are. Drop your pin. So I dropped the pin, and he came to the gas station. Came to the gas station, got out the car, and I was so relieved that he actually looked like his pictures that I was like, oh my God, he's actually attractive, because he's like 6'4", 6'5". Oh, also, man, I apologize. So let me go back to the first conversation. Let me add something. He did tell me in the first phone call that he was divorced, and that his ex-wife, she had 2 children, a boy and a girl, who were teenagers, young adults. I think the girl was about 20. And he said that he had a very close relationship with his stepkids. But that he and his ex-wife had divorced because she cheated on him out in California. And so coming to Georgia was a new beginning for him. She was still out in California. The kids were still out in California. And so, you know, he was like, I can't stand her, but I still want to be in the kids' lives. I have to put that in there because that will come back later. So this is just setting the stage. Again, that first conversation we talked about family, job, friends, how he ended up in Georgia, me being in Georgia, the things that, you know, I would think people talk about in the first conversation. All right, now back to the tire blew out. So he shows up to the gas station. He changes my tire, which I just thought was the sexiest thing in the world. And then he proceeds to say, hey, I found a tire place around the corner. You need to get another tire. Like, you can't drive on this donut. So he followed me to the tire place, and then helped me get a tire, paid for it. So I was definitely like, wow. And so the vibe was good. So anyway, I get the tire fixed. We follow each other to the Cheesecake Factory over in Perimeter. We hold hands walking into the Cheesecake Factory. So in my mind, I'm like, this. Oh my God, I had butterflies. That's the look of a woman who had butterflies. So I had butterflies. And we go in, there's a long wait. And so we sit outside and we just talk. And the conversation's great. And this is where he tells me what it is he's looking for. He tells me, you know, I believe at the time he was 42. He was like, I want to get married and it be for real. He's like, my parents were married 40 plus years before my mom passed away. And I want that. I want marriage, family, a house. Like, that is what I want. He was like, I'm as a man, I'm ready to get married, but I want it to be for real, because the first time, you know, it really hurt me when she cheated on me. So he's telling me everything that I wanted to hear. And so he was like, what is it that you want? And I said pretty much the same thing. I was like, I'm ready to get married. Definitely want to have a family. And I want to marry my best friend. So we both put on the table that we wanted marriage. And this is the end of part 1. All right, who the fuck did I marry? Part 2. So we both put on the table what it is that we wanted. We both had established we were dating for marriage. We were not dating just to date. We were not trying to be friends with benefits and none of that. So the dinner at Cheesecake Factory went really well. We laughed, we joked, we talked about people, which is kind of up my alley, my sense of humor. It was a good vibe. So at the end of the date, or excuse me, at the end of dinner, we sat in his car and he played this song for me by John Legend. I don't know the name of the song. By the time this video posts, I will put the name at the bottom. I can't remember the song. I just remember that John Legend was talking about, I think I met my wife tonight. And I thought it was a sign. So I was like, oh my God. So anyway, we ended up sitting in the car talking just about life and experiences until about midnight. So during this conversation, he again is telling me how it was, what it was like living in California, how he went out there, he went to San Diego State, he played football for San Diego State. He talked about how, life, he loved it out there, so he stayed. That's when he joined the company. And then he explained that he also did arena football, but only did it for about 2 or 3 years. He claims that while he was doing arena football, the team that he was on won a championship. But again, keep in mind, I don't know anything about arena football. So I was like, okay, I didn't know that they had championships. And he was like, he got a little offended, like, yeah, they got championships. And, he was on that team. So he talked to me about how he worked at Apple. He worked something in the IT area of Apple, but it within the store. Again, it was one of those, it's like when I tell people I used to work at Amazon. I really wasn't paying much attention to it. Why? So we talked about all that. We talked deeply into what happened with the ex-wife. It's because I asked. He was not volunteering all this information. So in other words, I get very uncomfortable when men start talking about their ex a lot. That's not what happened. I was asking questions because I was really trying to figure out, okay, are you ready for a relationship, or are you still missing her? So we talked about that. We talked about my exes. That was a mistake I made because I talked about how I dated at one point in time somebody I worked with. That will come back later. And he seemed real cool about it. He was like, that was before me and blah, blah, blah. So the conversation was good. Midnight comes and I go home. Yes, I went home. We ended up talking. Mind you, our first date was March 7th. And within about 2.5 weeks, Brian Kemp, our governor, shut Georgia down. We were going to be on lockdown. So during those 2.5 weeks, we talked every day. We went out again at Red Lobster. I remember Red Lobster. But everything was going great. The issue was, where are we going to quarantine? So the question was, are we going to quarantine at his place, which he had like a studio type of situation. Like, it clearly, where he was staying, I was like, it's like a studio apartment, but he kept telling me like, this is temporary because I'm looking for a house. Like, he showed me the email from a woman who worked at the company where she was out on maternity leave, but she was putting him in contact with a realtor to help him find a townhome or a single family house. So I was just like, okay, this is definitely temporary. Like, he's not trying to stay here long term. and she was apologizing in the email. I'm so sorry, you know, this should have been taken care of before you got here, but it wasn't, da 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 da. I saw the email. I read it. I read the email. So the decision was, we're going to quarantine at the studio, or we're going to quarantine in my house? First mistake I made. Well, there's a lot, but this was a mistake I made. So ladies, caution moment. During one of our dates, because keep in mind, in those 2 weeks, we were seeing each other quite a bit. Nothing physical or anything like that. Just two people who I thought were really on some, all right, let's see if this is going to grow into something. He came to my house. When he came to my house, I had a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhome. He was in a studio. Now, I'm telling you guys all of this in order of how it happened. So some things I'm probably going to insert what I was thinking and the mistake I made. Can I turn this off? No. Okay, I still need that. And I say that to say that I did not realize inviting him to my home probably made his eyes go, oh shit, she's a keeper. She got this 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhouse, and I'm in like a little studio. Yeah, let me go ahead and pursue this. What I need to do to quarantine here. The decision was made, quarantine at my house. So the state went on lockdown. He came and stayed with me in my home, and for the most part, in the initial beginning, it was fine. It was fine. The reason why I hesitate is because I grew up in the church. So for me, it was really like an internal struggle of, bruh, you always said you would never live with a guy unless he was your husband. And now you living with a dude and he ain't your husband. Like, it was a struggle for me because I knew better. And don't come for me. I'm just telling you the way I grew up. It was like that. It was not sitting right with me. But at the same time, I didn't want to quarantine by myself. I did not want to. So there we go. So he moved in. We talked about the bills. Let me clear something up that I said in the other video where I said he paid all the bills. He paid all the household bills. He did not pay my car payment, my cell phone, or my car insurance. He paid the rent, because my rent at the time was less than $1,000. He paid the utility bills. And so when he's telling me that he's a regional manager, I was like, wow, okay, so you got money. And so he paid all the household bills. So my check really was just taking care of me, myself, and I. And I am not, this is where it's not gonna make me look good, but it's the truth. It was intoxicating to not have to worry financially about how to pay the bills. It was a wonderful feeling. And so I kind of pushed to the side the fact that, yeah, you shacking up, because it's like, but your page, you don't have to worry right now. Like, he's taking care of all of April's bills before April even comes, because this was still March. So we're living together, and I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, he's helping to cook and clean, and then we have a conversation about house. Is he still going to buy a house just for him, or is he going to buy a house where it's for us? Because we are going to try to make this thing work, be official, get married, have a family. So the question now on the table is, what are we going to do? Because I didn't want to stay in Riverdale, Georgia. I did not want to raise a family there. I refused to have a baby in Clayton County. So the decision was made, let's start looking for a house for both of us. Remember, he was already looking for a house for him, but then he was like, you know what, we're together, I plan to marry you, let's look for a family home for the two of us. He was like, this is how much I was approved for. That's when he showed me the Chase paperwork. It was a letter stating that and it had the Chase emblem at the top. He showed me a letter stating that he was approved for $700.